Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story, everyone. Crystal chandeliers, hanging high from the ceiling, cast thousands of shimmering lights, reflecting on champagne glasses and glittering evening gowns. The luxurious wedding hall at the five-star hotel was adorned with white roses and silver candles, every detail exuding overwhelming opulence. The live band played a lilting waltz, its melody urging everyone into the rhythmic swirl of romance. Sophia Bennett sat alone at a round table in the corner, trying to maintain a calm exterior, even as her palms grew damp with sweat. Her navy blue dress hugged her slim figure, while the high heels she wore had made her steps feel somewhat awkward across the red-carpeted floor. She hardly knew anyone here besides her best friend, the bride, who was now busy holding the groom's hand and smiling radiantly under the photographer's flashing lights. "Alone, are you?" A woman's voice from the next table broke in, tinged with a half-smile. Sophia gave a small nod, replying curtly, yet she could still feel the woman's scrutinizing gaze. Hardly the first time. Lavish weddings were always full of whispers. She came alone. No boyfriend. Looks a little out of place, doesn't she? Sophia sighed softly and raised her glass to her lips, masking her discomfort behind a sip of wine. She usually didn't care about idle stares, but tonight, under the glittering eyes of the high society crowd, her solitude seemed amplified to an almost unbearable degree. She glanced at her watch. Only 8. Far too early to leave without seeming rude. Just as Sophia was about to rise and find a quiet spot to breathe, a tall figure appeared beside her table. He sat down with a decisive motion, as if this seat had always belonged to him. A perfectly tailored black suit, a silver silk tie catching the light, and sharp features paired with a cold, piercing gaze instantly drew the attention of those nearby. Sophia blinked, caught off guard, when the man leaned closer, his deep voice brushing her ear. "Pretend you're with me." Sophia froze. Her heart skipped a beat, half stunned, half intrigued. "Excuse me?" she whispered back, leaning slightly away to keep some distance. Without looking at her, his eyes stayed fixed on a group of guests a few tables away. "They're gossiping. If you don't mind, let's pretend we came together." Sophia let out a quiet laugh, both annoyed and amused by the absurdity. "And you think I'll just play the girlfriend of a complete stranger?" At last, he turned toward her. Steel-gray eyes, cold, yet glinting beneath their icy surface. He leaned down slightly, close enough for Sophia to catch the refined scent of sandalwood rising from his collar. "Just pretend. Trust me, you'll avoid those unpleasant stares, and I'll dodge a meaningless setup. We both win." Sophia bit her lip, hesitating for a second. Honestly, he wasn't wrong. Already, the looks aimed her way had shifted from judgmental to curious. "Oh, so the girl sitting alone actually has a date? Fine." Her lips curved in a half-teasing, half-defiant smile. "But how far are you planning to take this act?" His brow arched, the corner of his mouth lifting faintly. "Leave that to me." Then he draped his arm casually over the back of her chair, a gesture so naturally intimate it made nearby guests cover their mouths and giggle. Sophia straightened instinctively, a silent alarm sounding in her head. Danger! This man is far too skilled at playing the part. "What's your name?" she asked softly, suspicion edging her tone. "James Thornton." His answer was brief, needing no elaboration. Sophia stiffened. That name was hardly unfamiliar. The youngest CEO in finance, infamous for his cold ruthlessness in the business world. Good grief, am I really pretending to be James Thornton's girlfriend? She was about to react when he smoothly poured more wine into her glass, every inch the courteous gentleman. "Relax, Sophia Bennett." He spoke her full name, and her heart faltered. "You know me?" James shrugged. "I have a good memory for remarkable faces." His gaze locked with hers, so sharp Sophia had to look away, her pulse racing, whether from discomfort or something else. She wasn't sure. The rest of the evening turned into a finely tuned performance. When a guest approached their table, James introduced Sophia as his special someone, his voice steady, though his eyes carried a hint of amusement. Sophia, though awkward, played along, smiling sweetly, nodding as though it were true. "You two make such a lovely couple," one lady praised, her glance full of implication. Sophia nearly laughed. "Me?" A financial journalist fueled by instant coffee and deadlines, matched with this arrogant CEO? Yet, strangely, under the weight of those watching eyes, The role didn't feel unbearable. Whenever she faltered, James would lean in with a quiet joke or skillfully steer the conversation in a different direction. "You're quite the actor," Sophia murmured as they stepped away to fetch dessert. James glanced at her, the faint curve of his lips returning. "Who said I was acting?" The short reply sent warmth rushing to her cheeks, her heart skipping a beat once again. In that moment, amid the glittering lights and music of the grand hall, they could have been mistaken for true lovers. Though they had only just met an hour ago, the strange chemistry between two strangers charged the air around them, half playful, half electric. Sophia took another sip of wine, suppressing the smile tugging at her lips. She told herself, "This is just a performance. Tomorrow, everything will return to normal." But deep down, she knew the instant that man whispered, "Pretend you're with me," a story neither of them could foresee had already begun. Sophia thought the little play at the wedding would end the moment fireworks lit up the sky. By morning, she'd be back to her usual world: laptop, deadlines, and thick stacks of financial reports. But life, of course, never let her off that easily. 3 days later, just as Sophia stepped out of the newsroom, a sleek black Bentley pulled up in front. The window rolled down, revealing a familiar cold face. James Thornton. She froze, her heart skipping a beat. "Don't tell me you're here to buy a newspaper." James glanced at his watch, his low voice steady. "If you're not busy, we need 5 minutes." "Sounds like a political interview," Sophia quipped. But in the end, she opened the car door and slid inside. The luxurious interior made her worn-out heels feel wildly out of place. He didn't waste time. "Do you remember what I said at the wedding?" Sophia smirked, hard to forget, especially since I nearly choked from all that fake smiling in front of those ladies. The corner of his mouth curved faintly. "Here's the thing. Both the media and shareholders are putting pressure. They think I'm abnormal because I don't have a girlfriend nor a family yet. My stock doesn't rise or fall based on my private life. But the rumors are irritating." Sophia crossed her arms. "So, you want me to keep pretending?" "Exactly." James met her gaze directly. "I need someone smart, strong enough not to turn into a laughingstock before the press." And he paused for a beat. "I thought you played the role exceptionally well." Sophia burst out laughing. "Well, that's a strange compliment. Instead of 'you're beautiful,' it's 'you're a great actress.' Both are true." His calm reply silenced her instantly. The air in the car grew taut. Sophia knew she should refuse. She didn't have time to play anyone's fake girlfriend. But then a thought struck. If she agreed, she'd gain access to the upper echelons of society, right into the circle of figures tied to the financial scandal her newsroom was investigating. This could be the very door she needed. Resting her chin in her hand, she feigned deliberation. "And how exactly do you plan to compensate me for this role?" "Respect, discretion, and a touch of convenience," James replied without hesitation. Sophia Bennett doesn't sell out that cheap. She narrowed her eyes, teasing, "I want full rights to walk away any time I find you unbearably boring." A soft laugh escaped him, rare and warm, like ice cracking under sunlight. "Deal. And I reserve the right to end the agreement if you turn into a PR disaster. The only disaster here is your suit being too perfect, making other women look at me like I'm leeching. Then I'll look at you with enough devotion to make them believe otherwise." His tone stayed flat, but there was a mischievous spark in his eyes. Sophia swallowed hard. This man really did know how to throw a woman off balance. She extended her hand. "Temporary deal." His hand closed firmly and warmly around hers. "Just pretend." Bennett. "Yes, pretend." She emphasized the word, though deep down it felt like she had just stepped into a dangerous game. The very next day, their pretend relationship faced its first test. James took Sophia to a charity gala. "You sure about this? These are brand new heels. I might trip on the red carpet." Sophia muttered as the car door opened. "If you fall, I'll carry you inside." James's tone was matter of fact. "You do realize lines like that make it very hard for me to focus, right?" "Exactly. That's the plan." He held out his hand to her like a gentleman straight out of another century. Inside the hall, all eyes turned to them at once. The murmurs rose. "James Thornton has a girlfriend. Who is she?" Sophia inhaled deeply, smiling gracefully. "Act Bennett. Pretend you're writing an undercover feature." James bent close to her ear, his warm voice brushing against her. "Your smile's much better than at the wedding. Looks less forced. You should try it too. Instead of keeping that frozen mask on." Sophia whispered back. He tilted his lips slightly, letting the faintest curve show. "Like this?" Sophia caught the look, her heartbeat stumbling. "Damn it. That half-smile was more dangerous than a forged financial report. The gala unfolded, and to Sophia's own surprise, they played their parts seamlessly. James held her hand while introducing her to business partners, and she skillfully handled the press as if she truly were his secret girlfriend. When the event finally ended, they slumped back into the car, both exhaling in relief. "I'll admit, Sophia," James said, "you really are a natural-born actor." James adjusted his tie, eyes fixed on the window. "To outsiders, all I need is to stay cold. But with you, I don't have to pretend as much." Sophia was left speechless. She turned away, hiding the smile, tugging at her lips. Inside, she whispered to herself, "Careful, Bennett. This little game of pretend might not stay pretend for long." In the days that followed, Sophia Bennett's name suddenly began circulating regularly on the lips of high society, not because she was a sharp financial journalist, but because she was the unexpected girlfriend of James Thornton. Sophia often asked herself, "How did I end up in this charade?" But each time she looked in the mirror and saw the evening gown borrowed from her sister's closet, along with the ornate invitation card in her purse, she reminded herself, "This is an opportunity. Act the part, but observe. Maybe I'll uncover a lead for that financial scandal." On Friday night, James took her to a fundraising gala at the Art Museum. The grand hall glowed under dazzling lights. Abstract paintings hung along the walls, and guests in expensive attire moved like chess pieces across the floor. "Don't be nervous," James murmured as he guided Sophia inside, his steady hand resting on her waist. "I'm not nervous," she replied, though her heel nearly caught on the edge of the carpet, making her stumble. James frowned slightly before catching her arm. "Careful. I don't want my fake girlfriend turning into a joke in the first 5 minutes." Sophia shot him a glare and whispered back, "Instead of mocking me, you could just say I look beautiful, you know." He tilted his head, his icy eyes flickering with a spark. "You look beautiful, but your shoes are clearly the traitor here." Sophia bit her lip to hide a smile, then straightened up and slipped back into her role. Throughout the evening, they had to publicly display affection under the watchful eyes of the guests. James kept his composed CEO expression, but each time she faltered, he covered for her effortlessly, like the moment she accidentally dropped a silver spoon into her glass of red wine, producing a loud, clanging sound. Curious eyes turned toward her, and Sophia flushed crimson. Without missing a beat, James lifted his own glass, tapped it lightly with a clear clink, and smiled. "Allow me to propose a toast to tonight's success." The crowd immediately cheered, laughter dissolving the awkwardness. Sophia looked at him, equal parts grateful and astonished. So, the cold-blooded CEO does know how to save the moment. The most striking moment came when they posed for photos in front of a wall of white orchids. The photographer directed, "Mr. 5. Thornton, hold your girlfriend a little closer." Sophia nearly protested, but James had already pulled her firmly against him, whispering near her ear, "Just pretend we're playing happy newlyweds." Her heart skipped wildly. She forced a smile, but the flashing cameras captured the scene from every angle. As soon as they stepped down, Sophia glared at him. "You took advantage of that way too much." James remained calm. "You did well. Your smile looked more natural than I expected." "So, you're saying I usually smile falsely?" He didn't answer, just gave the faintest curve of his lips. That silence left Sophia both annoyed and strangely warmed. Even while the performance went smoothly, Sophia didn't forget her true goal. Whenever James was occupied with business partners, she quietly drifted near other tables, eavesdropping on scattered conversations. One night, standing by the buffet, she overheard 2 middle-aged businessmen whispering about funds flowing through a subsidiary in the Cayman Islands. The keyword instantly triggered her journalist's instincts. Sophia quickly memorized the company name and the vague numbers they mentioned. When she returned to the table, James frowned. "Where did you disappear to? Getting more dessert?" Sophia held up a plate with a tiny mousse, her smile all innocence. He studied her for a moment, as though trying to read something behind her bright brown eyes. Finally, he shook his head lightly. "Don't make me search for you in the crowd. A real girlfriend doesn't vanish halfway through. A fake one does," Sophia grinned, though inside she was on high alert. "He's sharper than I thought. I need to be careful." Toward the end of the night, as they passed through the gallery, James stopped before a deep blue landscape painting. His voice dropped unexpectedly. "My mother used to love this shade of blue. She said it reminded her of the sea back home." Sophia blinked in surprise. This was the first time he'd shared anything personal beyond the curt lines of a CEO. She glanced sideways and noticed his gaze wasn't cold now, but tinged with memory. "I didn't think you'd ever talk about family," she said softly. "I didn't think I'd tell anyone at this event," he replied, his voice low and warm. In that moment, Sophia realized that beneath his icy exterior, James was also a man carrying hidden corners and longings. That sudden glimpse of warmth made her heart stir in an unusual way. On the ride home, silence filled the car. Sophia leaned back, her eyes drifting to the invitation card, still tucked in her purse. These events were opening doors to the world she needed to access. "Funds in Cayman," she repeated to herself. "I need to trace this lead." But what if James was involved? She turned to glance at him. He was looking out the window, calm and unreadable. Unbidden, she recalled his steady hand, saving her from falling. The look in his eyes when he mentioned his mother. Part of her wanted to believe he was innocent, but her profession and instincts whispered, "No one in the financial world is completely clean." "What is it?" James suddenly turned, catching her stare. Sophia quickly smiled, masking her thoughts. "Nothing. Just wondering what I should wear tomorrow to match this girlfriend role." He nodded, the faintest curve touching his lips. "Wear whatever makes you comfortable. The rest I'll handle." Sophia smiled back, though her heart churned. This was still a play, but if one day it stopped being pretend, what then? Sophia thought this pretend relationship would only extend to lavish parties where they held hands just to fend off curious stares, but on Saturday night, James proved she had guessed completely wrong. The familiar Bentley stopped in front of her apartment. The driver stepping out to open the door, James appeared, dressed in a suit simpler than usual, yet still radiating that unmistakable aura. "And where are you dragging me this time? Another tuxedo-filled gala?" Sophia asked as she slid into the car, half serious, half joking. "No," he replied shortly. "Tonight is different. Less wine, more music." 15 minutes later, they pulled up at an old theater downtown, the glowing marquee reading, "Special Symphony Concert, Beethoven and Rachmaninoff." Sophia blinked in surprise. "You're taking me to classical music?" James shrugged, his voice steady. "My pretend girlfriend needs a touch of reality, too. Otherwise, the audience will see through the script." She chuckled softly and followed him inside. The theater glowed in golden hues, its high ceiling painted with murals, rows of red velvet seats stretching out beneath the chandeliers. As the lights dimmed, the orchestra began its first notes. Sophia sat beside James, shoulders brushing in the narrow space, and felt a flicker of awkwardness. The music swelled, at times soft as a whisper, at times surging like a storm. In the dim light, she stole a glance. James sat upright, his usual stern face softened, his gaze distant, as if fixed on some place beyond the present. Between movements, he spoke, his deep voice blending with the cello's resonance. "When I was little, my mother used to play pieces like these at night. She would say, 'James, you can be anything you want, but always remember to listen.'" Sophia tilted her hilt. "It was the first time he mentioned his mother. She died when I was 10, he continued, still staring at the stage. "My father was different. To him, silence mattered more than music. He believed a Thornton son had to be strong, flawless. No mistakes allowed." Sophia held her breath, sensing a weight in his words that had never been revealed before. "Flawless. Sounds suffocating," she whispered. He turned toward her, gray eyes glinting in the soft light. "It was, but without perfection, I'd never be where I am today. My father left me no other choice." Sophia swallowed hard, resisting the impulse to reach out and touch him. Instead, she offered a gentle smile. Maybe he forgot that sometimes imperfection is what makes someone truly unforgettable. A beat of silence passed, then James's lips curved faintly. After the concert, they stopped at a small cafe near the square. Unlike the upscale places he usually frequented, this one was simple. Wooden tables, warm golden lights, and the rich scent of roasted coffee. "Never thought I'd see James Thornton sitting in a cafe like an ordinary man," Sophia teased. "Don't tell anyone." He lifted his cappuccino, taking a sip. "I'd lose my cold CEO image." She laughed, surprised to find he actually knew how to joke. They talked for a while about music, about distant business trips, and slowly, Sophia realized that behind the icy facade and dry numbers, James had a heart that could be moved. For a fleeting moment, she almost lost sight of her mission. Almost. While James stepped outside to take a call, Sophia pulled out her phone and scrolled quickly through the photos she'd taken at the concert. Donation envelopes and sponsor nameplates. Some names matched the list she was investigating about those shady funds in Cayman. She saved them, pulse quickening with excitement. This is progress. The deeper I go into James's world, the closer I get to the truth. When he returned, she slipped her phone away, pretending to stir her coffee. "Something wrong?" he asked, a flicker of suspicion in his eyes. "No, just." She shrugged lightly, thinking maybe I should wear lower heels tomorrow so you'll stop mocking me. James's lips curved into that familiar half-smile. "Then I'll just hold your hand tighter so your shoes won't have a chance to betray you again." The words caught her off guard. Then she burst out laughing, hiding her sudden fluster. That night, back in her small apartment, Sophia sat before her laptop, pulling up her notes. Names and figures were beginning to sketch a hazy picture. Her fingers brushed her lips, still tingling with the memory of his story about his mother. Her heart and her mind were heading into battle. On one side, a powerful man with cracks of unexpected warmth. On the other hand, her duty as a journalist was to chase the truth, even if it shattered her own heart. Sophia whispered to herself, "Just pretend. Bennett, don't forget." But deep down, she knew this act was already starting to feel far more real than she ever intended. Sophia never thought she would feel the clash of two worlds this clearly. By day, she was a financial journalist, buried in data streams and dry spreadsheets. By night, she was James's pretend girlfriend, appearing at galas where champagne overflowed and laughter burst like fireworks. Then, one late night, while poring over financial reports on her laptop, Sophia froze. Amid the tangled numbers, one subsidiary stood out, TLM Holdings. Money funneled in from anonymous offshore accounts, only to vanish, as if into thin air. Money laundering. Sophia gripped her pen tightly, her pulse racing. This was her first truly valuable lead. But TLM Holdings belonged to the Thornton Group. She leaned back in her chair, exhaling heavily. "God, I'm pretending to be the girlfriend of the CEO of this company." Her rational side urged, "This is your chance to break the scandal wide open." Her heart countered, "What if he isn't involved? What if he's just another victim of the system?" The more she thought about it, the more torn she felt. At the same time, James invited her to his best friend's birthday party, more intimate, meaning fewer tuxedos and more cocktails. Sophia wasn't exactly excited, but she couldn't refuse. She told herself, "Think of it as part of the investigation. Who knows what I might overhear?" That night, the atmosphere was nothing like the formal banquets. Neon lights flickered, jazz mixed with pop beats filled the air, and guests danced freely. Sophia sat at the bar, twirling her martini glass, thinking, if I wrote an article tomorrow titled, "Cold-Blooded CEO Knows How to Dance Cha-Cha," Wall Street would faint. "What's making you smile to yourself?" James's voice came from behind. He held a glass of whiskey, his tie loosened, jacket unbuttoned, so different from his usual polished self. Just imagining a few headlines, Sophia shrugged. Something like, "Thornton drunk dancing on tables. Stock drops 3%. James arched a brow, taking a sip. "If that ever happened, my stock would drop at least 10%. Sophia burst out laughing, surprised to find he actually had a sense of humor. The party stretched late into the night. When most guests had left, James walked Sophia outside. The night air was cool, the taste of alcohol still lingering faintly between them. "Are you a little drunk?" Sophia tilted her head, squinting at him. "I can handle it," James replied, though his steps slowed slightly. They stopped on the stone steps outside the hall. Golden street lamps cast their long shadows across the pavement. Sophia opened her mouth to break the silence, but James turned to her. His usual steel-gray eyes glowed with an unusual warmth. He stepped closer, closing the distance to barely an arm's length. "Sophia," he said softly. "What?" she stammered, instinctively taking half a step back, only to hit the wall behind her. "You make me forget this is just pretend." Before she could react, he leaned down and kissed her. The kiss was sudden, brief, but intense. The taste of whiskey mingled with his familiar scent of sandalwood. Sophia froze for a few seconds, then her heart pounded so wildly she couldn't push him away. When James finally pulled back, he stayed close enough for his warm breath to brush her skin. "Are you insane?" Sophia whispered, her cheeks blazing. "Maybe." His voice was low, a faint, elusive smile on his lips. Sophia touched her mouth, torn between laughing and screaming. Part of her shouted, "God, the ice-cold CEO just kissed me." Another part reminded her, "Don't forget the money laundering. Don't forget your mission." "We're just pretending," Sophia said, her voice uneven. "Yes." James nodded. but his gaze was anything but pretend. But some moments, I don't want to act anymore. Sophia was speechless, her heartbeat hammering. On the ride home, the only sound was the low hum of the engine. James rested with his eyes closed, while Sophia stared out the window, her thoughts tangled. She had just uncovered a scandalous lead, yet also received a kiss that made her heart race for real. When the car stopped in front of her building, James opened his eyes, his voice husky. "Good night, Bennett." Sophia stepped out, stood for a long moment, watching the car disappear into the night. She whispered, "Good night, Thornton, and here's hoping I don't dream of trouble." That night, she tossed and turned in bed. The laptop on her desk still glowed with the report on TLM Holdings, untouched. Instead of reading, Sophia only reached up to touch her lips, half smiling, half sighing. In the darkness, she knew it clearly. The first crack had appeared. Monday morning, Sophia sat in her small office at the newsroom, staring at rows of cold numbers on her laptop screen. Beside her, a colleague whispered with theatrical urgency, "Sophia, fresh intel. A batch of documents shows the final signatory for TLM Holdings was James Thornton." Her heart stopped. "Are you sure?" "I'm 70% sure. But we don't have originals yet. Just leaked scans. It'll take time to verify." Sophia nodded, feigning calm, though inside she felt strangled. James, the man who kissed her breathless just days ago, the man who told her about his mother, about his childhood, he signed those papers. She tried to shake it off. A journalist had to stay sharp. But her heart kept whispering, "What if he's innocent? What if this is a trap?" Sophia shut her eyes, repeating to herself, "Bennett, don't go soft. Justice is justice." Yet, the words tasted far more bitter than she expected. That afternoon, James called unexpectedly. "Are you free? I want you to come with me to headquarters. I have something to share." His voice was low, decisive. Sophia hesitated for a beat, then agreed. It was also a chance to observe. The moment she stepped into the Thornton Group's towering glass building, she felt as if she had crossed into another world. A vast atrium, ceilings reflecting light, employees moving briskly like worker bees. "This is where he runs his empire," she thought, "and I am pretending to be the tycoon's girlfriend." The elevator carried them to the 50th floor. James's office was as wide as a modern museum. Floor-to-ceiling glass with a panoramic city view, a walnut desk, and bookshelves lined with leather spines. "Wow," Sophia muttered. "Add a kitchen, and I could move in." James glanced at her, the corner of his mouth twitching. "You'd find working here anything but comfortable, but I think you'll like this." He led her to a massive world map on the wall, dotted with red pins across continents. "This is my expansion plan," James explained, voice deep and steady. "Next year, I want to invest in clean energy in Asia, biotech in Europe, and online education in South America. If we get it right, the company won't just make money. It'll leave something of real value for the next generation." Sophia stared at him, stunned. Not just a money-hungry CEO. As the press painted him, he was talking about changing the world. Sounds like a Nobel speech. She teased lightly, though her chest warmed. James chuckled softly, his eyes gentler. "Do you always have to hide behind sarcasm?" "It's my defense mechanism," Sophia admitted, quickly turning away to mask her unease. Guilt hit her like a wave. He trusted her. He was sharing things he probably never told the press. And she had a USB stick in her bag, containing data on money laundering. Sophia felt like she was playing two roles on the same stage. James's girlfriend on one side and a journalist poised to expose him on the other. That evening, after work, James took her to dinner at a small riverside restaurant. No galas, no camera flashes, just soft candlelight and the sound of water lapping against the shore. Sophia sat across from him, holding the menu, but unable to read a word. In her mind, the word signatory blinked like a warning light. "You all right?" James tilted his head. "You've been distracted all afternoon." "I'm fine," Sophia forced a smile. "Just hungry." "If you're hungry, you should eat. I could order the entire menu if necessary." His tone was so serious that Sophia burst out laughing. "Are you trying to turn me into living proof for shareholders that your empire is branching into gastronomy?" "Possibly. If you agree to eat enough." The air grew lighter, but when Sophia met his eyes, her chest tightened. He was trusting her, opening up to her, and all she wanted to ask was, "Did you sign those papers?" But she couldn't. Not yet. After dinner, James suggested a walk by the river. Streetlights shimmered on the water. the breeze cool against their faces. "Do you ever feel," James said quietly, "like you have to keep pushing just to please everyone?" Sophia startled. "Are you talking about yourself or me?" "Both." He stopped, locking eyes with her. "I've never met anyone as independent and sharp-edged as you who still makes people want to protect her." Sophia flushed quickly, deflecting. "You should drink less wine. It makes you say things that could be misunderstood." "It's not the wine," he answered softly, firmly. Her heart raced, her thoughts tangled. If he truly signed, she would have to expose him, but if he was innocent, she'd be the only traitor. Biting her lip, she masked her turmoil with a joke. "Tell me, if I trip again in these heels, can you guarantee you'll catch me?" James smirked, leaning close to her ear. "No matter how many times you fall, I'll catch you, as long as you let me." His words made Sophia want to laugh and cry simultaneously. That night, back at her apartment, she opened her laptop. The scanned document glowed on the screen, James's signature, bold and precise. It could be forged, or it could be real. Sophia buried her face in her hands. Justice or love? Bennett, you have to choose. But God, she wasn't ready. Outside, the city lights blazed. Inside her small apartment, Sophia felt like a tightrope walker. Truth on one side, her heart on the other, and the rope was trembling more violently with every step. If Sophia had to name this stage of her life, she would probably call it night and day. By day, she was a financial journalist, tearing through numbers and dissecting reports. By night, she became James's pretend girlfriend, swept into evenings of romance, unexpected hand-holding, and sometimes glances strong enough to keep her awake until morning. "Hold still, Bennett." James tilted his head, adjusting the strap of her necklace on her shoulder. "You act like my stylist," Sophia muttered, cheeks heating. "Not a stylist," he said smoothly, "just a man who appreciates beauty." Sophia looked up, almost laughing. This CEO truly had a way of making her both annoyed and unsettled at once. That evening, they attended a small gathering that was not too crowded. James and Sophia worked like a perfectly synced pair. He reminded her not to leave her wine glass empty too long, while she pulled him into lighter conversations to dodge boring business chatter. Amid curious stares, James leaned down and whispered, "You're doing better than I expected." "Really? Then I'll raise my fee." Sophia shot back, eyes glimmering. He chuckled softly, a rare sound like ice cracking in winter. Sophia felt dizzy. "Damn it. Why does my heart race just because he laughs?" A few days later, James unexpectedly brought her to his family estate. It was like a small palace in the suburbs. Old white walls, a blooming rose garden, a pond reflecting the sky. "Why bring me here? Testing whether I'm afraid of haunted castles?" Sophia teased, half serious. "To meet the person I trust most." Sophia froze. The person James trusted. Moments later, a young woman appeared with soft brown hair and bright eyes. James introduced gently. "This is Olivia, my sister." Olivia smiled warmly. "So, you're Sophia. I finally met my brother's secret girlfriend." Sophia blushed, almost blurting out fake. But James's hand lightly pressed her back in warning. "That's right," he said, voice softer than usual. "Sophia is someone special." Her heart stumbled. Was he serious, or just acting for his sister? Dinner was unexpectedly cozy. Olivia shared childhood stories that made Sophia laugh, and James chimed in, teasing his sister, and occasionally her, too. When Olivia left to fetch dessert, Sophia whispered, "You're making me feel like a real girlfriend." James's gaze deepened. "Maybe because I want it that way." Sophia's breath caught. She grabbed her glass to hide the redness in her cheeks. That night, back at her apartment, Sophia tossed and turned. Each time she closed her eyes, James's image returned, in a simple suit, smiling faintly at her. She sat up, opened her laptop, and forced herself to focus on work, but instead of numbers, her mind replayed his words. "Maybe because I want it that way." She ruffled her hair. "God, Bennett, what are you doing?" The next morning, sneaking into a data archive she had access to as a journalist, Sophia stumbled upon something she never expected. A money transfer report stamped with TLM Holdings. Huge sums were funneled from shady funds into subsidiary accounts in Europe, and at the bottom, a familiar signature. James Thornton. Sophia froze. Her hands trembled as she zoomed in. Yes, it was his handwriting. Bold, decisive strokes. "No way," she whispered. Her heart twisted. If this were real, then the man who had just introduced her to his sister was directly tied to money laundering. But what if it was forged? What if someone was exploiting his name? Her head spun. What am I supposed to do? That afternoon, James called. I'm free. Want to take a walk? Sophia almost refused, but his voice was lighter than usual, sincere, almost like an invitation. She agreed. They strolled along the riverbank, the golden sunset spilling across the water. James suddenly stopped and handed her a small box. A gift? Sophia raised a brow. Does it come with a tracking device? He chuckled. Just a pen. I figured a journalist like you would appreciate it. She opened it. Indeed, a fine fountain pen, her name engraved on the side. Sophia held it tight, her heart both warmed and aching. He trusted her while she hid the biggest secret from him. She forced a laugh to cover her feelings. You know, this gift feels like pressure. Almost like you're signing me into a long-term girlfriend contract. James tilted his head, his voice low. And what if that's exactly what I want? Sophia went silent. Inside, the war reignited. Justice or love? That night, she couldn't sleep. The pen sat on her desk, gleaming under the lamplight. Her laptop screen still displayed the transfer report. On one side, a small gift filled with warmth. On the other hand, evidence that could destroy James. She whispered, half laughing, half choked, "Congratulations, Bennett. You've officially become the heroine of a tragedy you wrote yourself." In the quiet room, only the clock ticked steadily while her heart raced in chaos. For a week straight, Sophia felt like she was walking a tightrope, one strong gust away from plummeting. Every morning at the newsroom, her editor summoned her to his office. Sitting behind a desk piled high with files, glasses slipping down his nose, his voice was stern enough to make any reporter sweat. "Sophia, you already have the scanned signature. What are you waiting for?" "It hasn't been fully verified yet, sir." Sophia swallowed, unable to meet his eyes. Her editor slammed a hand on the desk. "Listen, this can't wait. Other outlets are sniffing around. If you don't file within 2 days, I'll hand it to Carter. He could turn James Thornton into Wall Street's cold-blooded wolf in 500 words. Is that what you want?" Sophia froze. Carter was infamous, sharp, ruthless. If he wrote it, James would be shredded to pieces with no mercy. Her heart screamed, "No, no one else can write about him like that." But her reason whispered, "This is journalism. Justice doesn't wait." Sophia forced herself to nod. "All right, I'll write it, but I need some time to polish it." Her editor's eyes cut through her like X-rays. 1 week, no more, or you lose the story and maybe your position." Sophia walked out, her legs heavy. She wanted to scream, but all she could do was sigh until her lungs ached. That night, in her apartment, the laptop screen glowed, a blank page blinking at her. An hour passed, and not a single word was typed. She pressed a hand against her chest. "Bennett, what are you doing?" Her professional conscience told her to write, but her heart refused. James didn't seem like the greedy, ruthless man tied to money laundering. And yet, that signature. Sophia buried her hands in her hair, letting out a bitter laugh. "Justice and love. Congratulations. I've chosen 2 eternal enemies." She opened her closet, eyes falling on the pen box James had given her. The small gift tightened her chest. If he were innocent, one false article could destroy him. If he was guilty, this love would be her greatest shame. The next day, whispers swirled around the newsroom. Word is Bennett's sitting on a bombshell about Thornton. Will she actually publish? Better not let Carter grab it. If he writes it, Thornton's finished. Sophia pressed her lips together. A decision sparked inside her. She couldn't let Carter take it. If anyone was going to write, it had to be her. At least then she could buy time. Marching into her editor's office, her voice was steady. "I'll write it. The article will come from me." Her editor's face broke into satisfaction. "Good. 1 week. No delays." Sophia left, her heart pounding. She had just signed her own sentence, but at least this gave her time and a chance to face James. That evening, Sophia sat on her bed, phone in hand, thumb hovering over James Thornton's name. She typed, "We need to talk about your company," then deleted it. Typed again, "I have something important to tell you." Deleted. God, I sound like a 17-year-old afraid to confess a crush, not a journalist about to drop an explosive investigation, she muttered with a self-deprecating laugh. Finally, she took a deep breath and wrote simply, "We need to meet privately." Less than a minute later, James replied, "Tomorrow night, my office." Sophia gripped her phone, her chest both sinking and racing. Tomorrow, everything would explode. That night, sleep never came. She tossed, turned, rolled left, rolled right, her mind a storm. One moment she saw James by the window, his gentle eyes gazing out as he spoke of his mother. Next, the transfer report with his decisive signature. She buried her face in the pillow and groaned. Why hasn't anyone invented sleeping pills specifically for journalists who fall in love with their investigation subjects? The room was silent, save for the ticking clock. Sophia knew one thing for certain: tomorrow she would have to make a choice. And that choice might shatter both her heart and her career. That morning, the brilliant sunlight outside her window meant nothing to her. Sophia had just taken a bitter sip of coffee when her phone buzzed. A message lit up the screen. "Come down. I'm waiting." She stared at the words, her stomach dropping. Before she could react, a knock sounded at the door. She didn't need to guess who it was. James Thornton. The door opened. He stood there, tall and imposing, filling the frame. His face was carved in ice, his gray eyes stripped of the warmth they'd held on past nights. Sophia had never seen him like this, like a storm restrained only by sheer force of will. "James," she stammered, "don't say my name like you have the right." His voice was low and rough, each word cutting like a blade. "You got close to me just for your story, didn't you?" Sophia froze. Every word pierced her chest. "I trusted you, Sophia. I told you about my mother, about my plans for the future. I even brought you home to meet Olivia. And you?" His voice broke into a harsh edge. "You're an investigative journalist digging into my company." Sophia drew in a shaky breath, her hands trembling. "Yes, I approached you for that reason. I'm a reporter. I found irregularities in your company, and you think I'm the mastermind. That I'm laundering money, just some greedy, heartless CEO." James's voice boomed, sharp with rage. Sophia bit her lip, tears burning her eyes, but she held them back. "I don't know. I have evidence, James. Evidence with your signature. I can't pretend it doesn't exist." "But," he barked, her voice cracked, the words cutting her as much as him, "but I can't pretend I don't have feelings for you either. I'm torn between justice and my heart. I don't want to believe you're guilty, but my conscience won't let me close my eyes." Silence slammed into the room. Only Sophia's frantic heartbeat filled the void. James stared at her, pain and fury warring in his eyes. "So all the smiles, the hand-holding, that kiss, it was all part of your plan?" Sophia shook her head violently. "No, maybe it started that way. But later, I truly felt something. You have to believe me." "Believe?" James's laugh was sharp, cold enough to make her shiver. "You've turned me into a joke. I, who trusted no one, ended up falling for a reporter's trap." "James, please, just listen." He turned away, his voice ragged. "It's over, Sophia. I don't want to see you again." The door shut with a chilling click. Sophia collapsed into a chair, burying her trembling face in her hands. Everything felt like it had shattered. For a fleeting moment, she wanted to throw it all away, her job, the story, the evidence, just to keep him. But deep inside, another voice rose. "If he's guilty, you can't look away. If he's innocent, justice will clear his name." Sophia exhaled, a bitter laugh escaping. "Congratulations, Bennett. You've managed to lose both love and work in a single morning." The rest of the day, she drifted like a ghost through the newsroom. Colleagues whispered. Her editor pressed. Her laptop screen glared white, the cursor blinking like mockery. She typed a few words, then deleted them. Tears spilled, blurring the screen. That night, she sat by her window, staring at the glowing city. Somewhere out there, James was surely in his glass tower office. But now, a wall stood between them. Unbreakable, her voice quivered as she whispered into the night. "I don't know what to believe anymore, James. I only know I never meant to hurt you." In the days after another reporter's article, Sophia felt as if she'd been cast adrift in a small boat caught in a storm. The Thornton Group was reeling, its stock plummeting uncontrollably. The media reveled in the chaos, the public devoured the scandal, and James had vanished from her sight. Sophia withdrew from the official investigation, but she couldn't sit still. Every night she buried herself in her laptop, opening and reopening files. If she could just find the truth, she could save James and her own heart. One late night, sitting in a near-empty cafe, her inbox lit up, an anonymous email. No subject, no signature, just one brief line and an attached file. "The one behind this is Michael Crane. Be careful." Sophia's pulse spiked. She opened the file. Internal records, scanned contracts, transfer slips, all bearing the signature of Michael Crane, vice president of the company, the very man James had trusted completely. Sophia slumped back into her chair, her mind in turmoil. So James hadn't signed. He was innocent, but how could she prove it to the world? The next night, leaving the newsroom past midnight, Sophia realized she was being followed. Heavy footsteps echoed behind her, a looming shadow stretching longer under the streetlights. Two men stepped out, blocking her path. Their faces were hard, merciless. One sneered, "Mr. Crane says, it's time you stop digging. You don't want to disappear, do you?" Sophia's grip tightened on her bag, her heart pounding. She forced a shaky smile. "Sorry. I'm not the type to take kindly to threats." But one man raised his hand, metal glinting in the dark. Sophia staggered back, her throat dry. At that exact moment, an engine roared. A familiar car screeched to a stop at the curb, the door flying open. James stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, his black suit stark under the streetlights. His gray eyes burned cold enough to make the men falter. "Touch her," he said, voice gravelly and low. He didn't need to shout. The weight behind his words alone made them shudder. The tension stretched, sharp as glass. Then the men cursed, retreating quickly into the shadows of the night. Sophia collapsed against the wall, gasping. She looked up to see James standing before her, his eyes as cold as ice. How did you know I was here?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I make it a habit not to abandon someone who once stood beside me." His tone was clipped, stripped of any gentleness. Sophia clenched her fists. She wanted to scream that he was innocent, that she had proof Michael was the real culprit. But when she opened her mouth, her throat locked. "James, I don't." He cut her off, eyes sharp as blades. "Don't call me like there's still something between us. I saved you because I won't have blood on my hands. That's all." Sophia's chest constricted painfully. "You don't believe me?" "Believe?" James let out a bitter laugh, cold enough to slice her open. "You hid from me, betrayed me, let the world turn me into a joke. Don't expect me to believe anything from you again." His words shattered her. She wanted to pull out the documents in her bag to scream, "I have proof you're innocent." But his eyes were so frigid, so unreachable. She couldn't speak. He turned, walking back to his car. His tall frame grew smaller, further, until he disappeared into the night. Sophia stood frozen, tears spilling hot down her cheeks. She whispered to herself, "You don't believe me, but I'll prove it. I'll write this piece. I'll make the world know you're innocent, even if you never want to see me again." That night, Sophia returned to her apartment, opened her laptop, and with trembling fingers began to type. She knew Michael wouldn't stop. She knew she was gambling with her career, even her life. But she also knew this was the only way to restore justice for James and for her own heart. Outside her window, the city still glowed. But for Sophia, everything was swallowed by darkness. The darkness of danger, of loss, and of a love being torn apart. Sophia's article was published on a Monday morning when the city was still half asleep. The headline wasn't flashy, but every word struck like steel. Who really stands behind the Thornton scandal? The truth about forged signatures. Sophia laid out in detail how the shady funds had been approved, pointed out the traces of forged signatures, and presented evidence that Michael Crane was the true mastermind. She wrote with all the precision of a journalist, but also with the heart of a woman who refused to let the man she loved be destroyed by false charges. The moment the article went live, the city erupted. Other outlets picked it up immediately. Thornton's stock stopped its free fall. And James, once branded a criminal, was now seen in a different light. Not as the culprit, but the victim. But Michael wasn't about to let things slide. That afternoon, as Sophia left the newsroom, a black car cut across her path. Everything happened too fast. A cloth soaked in something sharp and chemical was pressed over her face. Darkness swallowed her. When she came to, Sophia was tied to a chair inside an abandoned warehouse. Michael sat before her, his eyes cold, his voice smooth yet venomous. "Miss Bennett, you've disappointed me. I warned you, and yet you went this far." Sophia pressed her lips together, her heart hammering. "Are you really that afraid of the truth?" Michael smirked. "The truth only exists as long as the one holding it stays alive. You'll delete every original file." Or he raised his hand, a blade catching the dim light. Sophia swallowed hard, but her voice, though trembling, was steady. "I'd rather die than let you keep staining the Thornton name." Michael's eyes narrowed. "Stubborn. I hate the stubborn ones." Meanwhile, James had received word from a witness who had seen Sophia being dragged into a car. Without hesitation, he sped off, coordinating with the police. His car screeched to a halt outside the warehouse. As the officers stormed in, James was the first through the door. "Sophia!" Michael jolted, pressing the knife to her throat. "Stay back, Thornton. One move, and she dies here and now." James's heart nearly stopped. In that instant, every image of Sophia flashed before him. Her defiant smile, her warm eyes, the time she nearly tripped in her heels. "Let her go, Crane. Don't drag yourself further into the mud." James's voice was hoarse, his gaze burning like fire. Michael snarled, the knife pressing tighter, but in the split second he faltered as the police closed in. James lunged forward, yanking Sophia into his arms and shoving her clear of the blade. A gunshot cracked through the air. Michael was wrestled to the ground, restrained and cuffed. Sophia collapsed, blood seeping from a cut on her arm. James cradled her, the icy mask he always wore shattered, replaced by raw, terrifying fear. "Sophia, don't close your eyes. Can you hear me?" She forced her lids open, her lips pale. "James, do you believe me now?" He gripped her hand tightly, his voice shaking. "Don't say another word. I believe you. Please don't leave me." The ambulance arrived. They lifted her onto the stretcher, James climbing in beside her, never letting go of her hand. He bowed his head, whispering like a lost child's prayer, "God, please don't take her from me. I'll give up everything, the stocks, the company, the reputation. Just let her live." In the emergency room, Sophia lay motionless, machines beeping steadily. James sat outside, his suit stained with blood, hair disheveled, gray eyes fixed on the closed doors, his face carved with pain and fear. The police came with updates. Michael was in custody, but James barely reacted. He only kept whispering the same plea over and over. "Save her. Please, save her. I fear nothing, except losing Sophia." That night, when the storm had finally passed, James realized for the first time the woman who had stepped into his life with a single whispered pretense had become the one truth he could never lose. The hospital room was stark white, so quiet that even the drip of the IV could be heard. James sat at her bedside, his usually steely gray eyes now red-rimmed from a sleepless night. He had never imagined himself trembling in prayer, but for the past 24 hours, he had whispered only one plea on repeat. "Sophia, don't leave me." His hand never let go of hers. Her small fingers were limp, her skin pale. He pressed his lips against them, murmuring, "I'm sorry for doubting you. Sorry for leaving you alone. Just wake up, and I swear I'll never let you go again." A faint sound broke the silence. James's head shot up. Sophia's lashes trembled, then slowly lifted. "James." Her voice was weak. He held his breath, his heart exploding like fireworks. "I'm here. I'm right here." Sophia blinked around the room, weary. "I'm alive. Yes. You're safe now." James lowered his forehead to her hand. For the first time, the powerful man looked fragile, like a lost boy. Sophia gave a faint smile. "You don't have to worry about me so much. We're not. Don't say that." He cut her off, his deep voice trembling. "I was a fool not to believe you. But when I saw you lying there, I realized how terrified I am of losing you." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "There were times I hid things from you. I used you to get closer to the truth. But after that, my heart betrayed my reason. I fell in love with you, James." He looked up, his eyes blazing, yet filled with regret. "So did I. From the night you nearly fell because of those treacherous heels, I knew my heart wasn't mine anymore. But I was too proud, too cold to admit it." Sophia let out a frail laugh. "You? Making jokes about shoes?" "Yes, because you're the one who taught me how to joke." James clasped her hand tighter. "No more pretending, Sophia. I want this to be real. I want the world to know you're mine." In the days that followed, Sophia slowly recovered. James never left her side, reading reports in her hospital room, even clumsily peeling apples so badly that Olivia burst into laughter. "My brother holding a knife like that? Father would faint," Olivia teased. Sophia laughed softly, her heart warmed. James glanced at her sheepishly and whispered, "I've never peeled an apple for anyone before. You should feel special." "I do." Sophia's eyes sparkled as she squeezed his hand. When she was finally strong enough to leave the hospital, James held a press conference. Flashbulbs exploded, and reporters shouted questions. Standing at the podium, he was no longer the aloof, icy CEO. His voice rang with conviction. I, James Thornton, am innocent of these accusations. The true culprit has been arrested. And I want to thank one person, the woman who risked everything to uncover the truth. He turned, extended his hand to Sophia, and pulled her into the light. The room erupted in shock. Her heart pounded wildly. But James looked only at her, his eyes warmer than ever. He whispered, "Just for her. No more pretending." Sophia's tears shimmered as she smiled. No more pretending. That evening, they returned to the riverside where they had once walked. But this time, there was no distance, no doubt. From his pocket, James pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a simple, glimmering ring. "I can't promise you a perfect life because I've learned perfection doesn't exist. But I promise to stand by you always. Will you give me a new beginning with you?" Sophia laughed through her tears, covering her mouth. "You really know how to pick your moments. I'm still wearing a hospital coat. All the better. Proves I'm serious," James said with a shrug. She nodded softly, tears streaming, a radiant smile breaking through her face. "Yes, I will." He wrapped her tightly in his arms, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "This time, no pretending. This time, it's forever." Autumn had arrived, dressing the city in a soft golden hue beneath a sky of startling blue. That day, the Thornton estate did not host one of its usual grand galas. There were no thousands of guests in tuxedos or glittering gowns. Instead, the garden bloomed with roses, rows of white chairs lined neatly, satin ribbons tied with care, and the familiar faces of only a few. Olivia, close friends, and loyal staff who had stood by James for years. Sophia stood behind the glass doors leading out to the garden. Her wedding dress was pure white, simple, not extravagant. Hugging her figure just enough to make her glow beneath the gentle sunlight, she took a deep breath, her hand trembling around the bouquet she held. Olivia giggled, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Relax. My brother's out there looking at you like he's about to cry. I think he's more nervous than you are." Sophia laughed, the sound easing her nerves. "James, nervous? Believe me, ever since you walked into his life, he hasn't been the cold machine he used to be." Olivia winked. The music began. The doors opened. Sophia walked slowly down the flower-strewn aisle. Every gaze turned to her, but she saw only one. James. He stood waiting, dressed in a simple black suit, flawless in its cut. His usually icy gray eyes shone brightly, brimming with emotion. When Sophia drew closer, his lips curved into a rare, warm smile. The ceremony began. The minister's voice rang out, calm and deep. "We gather here to witness a new beginning, not a performance, not a pretense, but true love." Sophia squeezed James's hand, her eyes glistening with tears. He looked at her, his voice low but steady. "I once thought I had to be perfect, to be cold, to protect everything. But when I met you, I realized all I needed was to be myself. I promise I'll never let you fight alone again. I promise I'll believe in you, even if the whole world turns away." Tears spilled down her cheeks, but her smile was radiant. Her voice wavered yet carried strength. "I came to you pretending at first, but my heart betrayed me. I fell in love with you. I promise to stand by your side in light or in darkness. And I promise never to let treacherous heels trip me again, so you won't have to worry." Soft laughter rippled through the crowd, breaking the solemn air, and even James chuckled. He tightened his grip on her hand, his eyes shining. Then, the minister smiled. "You may kiss the bride." James leaned in, brushing his lips over hers as applause rang out. Cheers rose, and Olivia's laughter carried above them all. After the ceremony, there was no lavish reception. Instead, James and Sophia sat by the garden's pond, surrounded only by warm yellow lights and those dearest to them. With a glass of wine in hand, Sophia tilted her head toward him. "Funny, isn't it? We started with a whispered pretense. And now, here we are. Truly husband and wife." James gently brushed her hair back, his voice low and steady. "No more pretending. This is forever." Sophia smiled, her heart overflowing. Resting her head on his shoulder, she watched the fireworks bloom in the sky. Their reflections glimmered in their eyes, a sign that the storm had passed, and ahead lay a new journey.